Right, okay, this is the formal part of the day. This is our annual general meeting. And our agenda is, first of all, we are going to look at the minutes of the last annual general meeting. There's a smattering of copies of this on your tables. And it has also been online available for several weeks as well. Then we'll do matters arising, then we'll do some reports on the year. Then we'll talk about the elections. We've got to appoint a couple of new trustees, and then we've got a debate on the resolution that we've put up in front of you. So first of all, minutes of the AGM 2018. Are there any objections to signing those off as an accurate record? No? Okay, I'll take that as adopted then, thank you. Are there any matters arising from those minutes? No, okay, fantastic. Right, reports and accounts. We've made an annual report. It's in kind of PowerPoint slide format. It's available online. There's also a full copy of it at the information desk in the exhibition space. So if you want all the details, you can get that from there. But we're just going to run really quickly through kind of the major headlines, and we need to kind of heads of each team saying what they've been about. So the first one is services and information, and Katie Atkinson heads up that section. So Katie.
So the highlights for services and information over the past year. We have been working with the RNIB, who have been revising their fact sheet on Aniridia, and we have been we reviewed it and given them some feedback and worked with them to correct some errors and also just improve the content. We have some copies of that available on the information desk, and the RNIB are looking for further feedback from our members about the content, so please look out for information about that, how you can help with that in the next few weeks. Over the course of the year, we've had 7 inquiries, and that doesn't include inquiries about education, which we'll be hearing about shortly. So this is 7 inquiries on other things such as medical questions or other advice about living with Aniridia. One example I can tell you about is about a young man who sort of reached the age of 18 and needed to get a job to support himself, and in the meantime when he was searching for work he needed to apply for some benefits, and he had applied for the appropriate benefit for somebody who's disabled but wanted to look for work, but his Aniridia wasn't recognised as a disability, and so he wasn't successful in getting the correct benefit, and we've been able to help him go through the appeals process and eventually getting the correct benefit and also the correct support for his job search. That was done by our disability rights advisor Vida, so we'd like to give a thank you to her. We'd also like to thank our medical advisor Melanie Hinkarani, and we'd also like to thank our education advisor Lynn Buller, who will be speaking next.
Okay, the big thing this year was at the conference last year, a parent approached us with a newish child who felt that when she had the child and was told, as we were talking about this morning, that her child had Aniridia, immediately found Aniridia Network, but really felt that the information out there, if you Google stuff, as you all know, is really, really scary. And you're told all these terrible things, and you have to sort of recalculate your brain. And one of the good things about the conference is you get to talk to people. And she felt that very strongly and wondered if we could come up with a parent information pack. And so we were going to work on it together, and we started working it. We divvied up who was doing different bits, and unfortunately circumstances happened that she couldn't finish it, so I had to finish it myself. And it is finished now. It's just been proofread. There's a few tweaks to make to it. It's very simple, it's not scary. I was very aware that we didn't want to frighten parents, but we wanted to give you the facts about Aniridia. And that will be available. We're not quite sure how it's going to be available at the moment. you might contact me and I send it out to you, or we might have it online. We haven't quite decided that, but we will let you know. Those of you who have little ones here today, if you want to come and see me, I do have some copies of it for you to have a look at. I'd appreciate any comments that you have to make on it. So that's our big thing in education this year. And the other thing, we also welcome Clive Matthews. I think he's gone back into the stores in there. And he's an SEN advisor and advocate for SEN. And he's a great addition to the team because my background is as an early years teacher and school special educational needs coordinator. I retired 8 years ago, and things have moved on considerably since then. So we have a very different expertise, really. He's got some very interesting resources out there, and a very interesting man to talk to. I mean, he's understands the system of SEN in schools, and how to fight your child's case. Because, in a perfect world, we shouldn't have to fight our children's cases, but you're going to have to, with a smile on your face. Okay? The other thing I do is befriending. We've had a notable drop in people wanting buddies, but I think that's because in these conferences, just today, watching people talking is where the contacts are made. And I think that's happened more and more and more, and with meetups I know that James and the team was trying to promote where people meet other people. And certainly when we started having these conferences was very aware that some people had never met another person with Aniridia. And so now these conferences that you can do that. So it has dropped, but really interesting one I had this year was a lady who rang me up who already had one child adopted, and she was approached to adopt another child who had Aniridia, which I thought was just really a bit bizarre, really. And so she Googled Aniridia and she came to us and had long conversations with her. She was very, very keen to adopt, but she wanted to speak to somebody with a child with Aniridia. I'd lined up another family who were very willing to talk to her, and it was all going very well. And then for reasons beyond her control, she wasn't able to adopt that child. She wanted to, but there were situations in this child's life that she was not able to do that. But that, I thought that was a really interesting and powerful piece of work that we do at the Aniridia Network. Okay.
Dave here?
We're going to talk about events. Well, I joined the network 18 months, coming on 2 years ago. I'd never heard of it before, and then I was thrown into the deep end. I stepped up and said I would sort out the conferences. So I'm going to talk about last year's conference, 2018. It was a successful event at Resource for London, a venue that the organisation's used a few times. We took a survey at the end of the conference, and we had 93% satisfaction overall. So I was quite pleased with that, but I want to thank the rest of the team as well. And of course I want to thank you for filling out the survey and giving your feedback. What we've done is we've taken some suggestions from last year's conference, which we've kind of implemented, one of which you've experienced already, the last session where you meet up. There's another one later on. So I'm going to encourage you at the end of the conference to fill out the surveys, because it really helps me and the team work out what you're wanting from these events and how we can make it better. That wasn't actually what I was initially going to say, but there you go. That's my summary of the events.
I realise I always do this every year. I forget to actually do any introductions. So I'm James Buller. You just heard from Dave McKay, and previous to that you just heard from Lynn Buller. Next.
Katie.
Okay, next up we're going to talk about finances and hand over to our treasurer, Emily Nash.
Okay, so just the kind of sort of headlines just in terms of our finances. So we started the year off last April with 30,500 in our bank account. By April this year, this had increased to 34.5, so just under 4,000 surplus for the year, which is good. A lot of our income, or majority, so 12,000 plus, has come from Just Giving activities, so people doing the fundraising. And I think we're going to talk a little bit more towards the end just about those ones. But that's obviously really good. We also do get donations though from people doing direct debits and using sites such as Give As You Live and Every Click. So every time you do your Tesco shop or your Marks and Spencer's, a small amount comes to us. And this year we've also joined the Amazon Smile one as well, where again a small proportion comes to us. But if you want any more information about how perhaps you can give on a regular basis or use those websites, come and speak to us in the break as well at the stands, and I've got some forms for that as well. Altogether we raised 19,000 plus this year, which is good, and an increase from last year, which is always good to see, which has allowed us then this year to spend £7,500 went to our joint venture with Fight for Sight for research, and there's more details in the report and on the website about that research being done at Moorfields. The other types of costs that we've seen is obviously supporting our conferences, both the one last year that Dave was just talking about, and this one today. And then we also invested some money in some of the equipment that has allowed us to record and stream the conference onto the web today, which is obviously kind of sort of an asset for us. So that's kind of sort of an overview really just of where we are financially, which is good. And the other activities I've just been doing in terms of financial role is just continuing to just consolidate our bank accounts. So we are now using our Lloyd's bank account rather than our CAF one, and just continuing really just to ensure that our finances are just managed consistently and in a standardised way, and that's me.
Okay, back to me, James Buller. I am head of the Communications and Membership Department. And so the main things I want to highlight is Aniridia Day 2018. We'll hear more about the coming year in a few minutes. But 2018 was a marvellous event. Myself and Glenn in the corner there, who's busy doing our social media and video today. We basically set up 12 hours of webinars internationally in 4 different languages. So spanning the time zones, and we basically orchestrated this in a big social media campaign focusing on called Aniridia Site, basically encouraging people to post examples of what they could see or describing what they could see to other people. That was a really, really good campaign. Glenn, again, also, as you may have seen, published all the videos from last year's conference. So if you weren't there, you can go and review them. A brilliant thing, again, kind of spreading the benefit of these events. And just very quickly, some stats. We now have 129 people on our contacts database, which is up 4% on last year. 423 of those have Aniridia of some kind, plus 40 who have WAGA 11P deletion syndrome. Dave, now talk about our sponsored feeds.
Thank you. I should have introduced myself earlier. Just to remind you, I'm Dave Mackay, the conference officer. So the sponsored feeds. Well, as an organisation, we want to say thank you to everybody who has done one feat or another. Just a few here for you. Matt has done some cycling and managed to raise over £9,000 for us. And of course, Charlotte's sponsored walk, which is something that's happened relatively recently, but that raised another £1,200. They're just a couple of examples. I'd like to say really a big thank you. Keep on doing these events. They help us raise a lot of money, which then takes me on to my next, which is the donations. Emily has kindly given you a feel already on how some donations are done. Regular giving, which we're really grateful for, and the one-off givings as well, and the small givings through the different web facilities Amazon Smile, etc. We've raised a lot of money through that. Keep on giving, because it's your donations that help us run these events and do much more for you. That is me from it.
Thank you, Dave. Volunteering. So we are substituting here, by the way, Martin Fleming, one of our other trustees who leads on volunteering and development stuff, couldn't be here today, so that's why we're having a few others of us kind of covering these bits and pieces. But volunteering, we really couldn't do this without volunteers. We have no staff as a charity, so everything is being done by volunteers. We've had 2 new people join, in particular this year. Eve Harris, who's been helping us with some sort of looking into what grants we might be able to apply for, and Clive Matthews, as we've already mentioned. There are lots more opportunities to volunteer. Please come talk to us, tell us what skills you have. Again, we'll talk about that in the second Getting to Know You session. So yeah, in particular, these are people we want to thank. Some of them who are here today. And we've got a bit of a gift for people, a bit of a difference from last year. What happened is there was a organisation that exists near where I live in London, and it's a sort of social enterprise, and they basically have disabled people, in particular visually impaired people, who make various products, in particular soaps and kind of beauty products. And they donated a whole box load of hand soap. And thanks to a partner of one of our members, who's a graphic designer, he's made Aniridia Network labels. So there's a nice black iris on the front, a flower on the front of these bottles. And we basically like to give these to our volunteers who are here today. So there's one for Dave, for example, for a start. There's one for my parents, Lynn and Peter Buller there. Who else have we got here? Keith. Keith gets one for helping with all our databases. We'll give one to Clive Matthews. One for Glenn, again for doing all the social media and the videoing. One for Liz and Robin for manning the fundraising table and generally sort of helping out at last year's conference and this year's as well. So make sure we'll help them. And finally, in particular because she's standing down this year, we want to give one to Emily to thank her for being a trustee for the past couple of years. These are available. You can buy your own. We'll even sign them if you really want. So yes, these are out on the information desk, so you can go and buy a bottle of this visually impaired made Aniridia Network soap. Okay, hand over now quickly to Eleanor, who's going to talk to you a little about the governance work we've been doing.
Okay, yes, so because we're now a charity and we changed over last July, so it's very important as a charity that we are right up to date with policy documents. So we've been writing some policy documents which are online. There are some which are published and some we are still working on. The Equal Opportunities Policy has been published. Also, we have an anti-bullying policy document, and we also have, with respect to communications, the type of standard we would expect to have. There's also a complaints procedure, so it might be that any one particular person has a complaint. That sounds difficult, strong word, but a grievance procedure, just in case somebody has not been behaving properly. And all of these documents are available. I have just mentioned a few, but for those that are not published, they will be published online on the Aniridia Network site.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, I mean, as I say, you can come and talk to us about any of this. Does anyone have any questions for us, the trustee board, about anything you've heard? No, fantastic. Okay, we're going to move on now to the appointment of trustees. I'm going to hand over to our chair, Katie.
Thank you. So we have 2 available spaces on the trustee board, and I believe we have 2 people who have nominated themselves as candidates for trustee. One is Dave McKay, who we've already heard from today, and I hope I got the name right here. I think the name of the other person is Sarah Matthews, is that correct? So I'm going to invite each of them individually to come up and speak for just a minute about themselves and why they want to be a trustee, and then we'll take a vote. So can I first invite Dave to come and tell us why he'd like to be a trustee?
Thank you, Katie. I put myself forward to be a trustee simply because I have learned a lot through the organisation and with volunteering, with the conferences. When the positions were being made available, I thought I could further help the charity move forward in a positive direction, because it's dealing with governance of the charity. I believe that some of my experience within a regulated environment would be helpful to the charity, looking at the governance documents and tweaking them and helping us be more secure with data protection, etc. I've worked in the financial sector, so I've got a lot of experience in the corporate sector as well, and I felt that my skill base would be of benefit to the charity. That's why I've decided to stand. I'm going to hand over to Sarah.
As thin as I like to think I am. Thank you. I don't know why I nominated myself, really. No, I didn't. I've lived in Aniridia for over 50 years, shouldn't be saying that, and also the mother of 2 now young people. My daughter's over there, Leah, with Aniridia. And it's been a journey, and I've watched their journey, and I think I can give something back in a positive way to support people, that it isn't all doom and gloom. I think I put in my personal statement, and I actually use it now when I go to interviews. Aniridia's made me into the resilient, problem-solving, flexible, determined, some say bullshit, I don't necessarily think so, person that I am, because I've had to cope and do things differently, and get on in life living with this condition. So I'm actually proud to have Aniridia, and I hope that I could be a positive role model. I've done okay for myself. I now work as a proposal manager. Leah's in her 3rd year of doing social work. My son, who's also got Aniridia, does business finance. So people with Aniridia can do anything that anybody else can do, and I truly believe that. I've worked in the voluntary sector in various roles for 14 years. So governance, I'm used to governance. I'm a social worker by trade, so some of the child protection policies I can help with. And what my job is now is business development, so fundraising is my thing. I'm a bid writer. Is that Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave and Sarah. Can I ask you both just to step outside for 1 minute while we take the votes? Okay, so I'll just explain that the options are, we're going to consider each candidate individually, and your options are to vote in favour of having them as a trustee, vote against, or you can abstain. So first we're going to consider Dave. Would everybody in favour of having Dave as a trustee, please raise your hand.
It's unanimous, I think, pretty much.
Okay. Is there anybody against?
Nope.
And is there anybody who wants to abstain?
No.
No. Okay, so in that case, Dave is duly elected. And now we're going to consider Sarah. So would anybody who's in favour of Sarah being a trustee, please raise your hand. And anybody against? Anyone who wants to abstain? Okay, so Sarah is also duly elected. So if someone could ask them to come back inside. Okay, well, when they reappear, we'll give them a round of applause.
You didn't think I'd get that far, did you? Congratulations, both of you. Okay, and as his first duty, we're going to ask Dave to introduce the resolution that we need to debate with you.
Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of an interactive session, a little bit of fun at the same time for this resolution. I'm going to invite both James and Katie to stand by the microphone because I'm going to grill you a little bit.
We've got mics over here, we'll do it.
Okay, and then we're going to allow a few of you to grill them as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Katie to tell me what she's standing for today, but what she tells you is maybe not her personal view. The same goes for James. But Katie, what are you standing for today?
So I'm going to talk to you about the reasons why we should remain as a membership organisation.
And James, what are you standing for?
I'm going to advocate that we should change to be a trust type organisation.
So we've got two statuses. One that says a membership base and the other is a trust base. So, Katie, can you give me, please, 3 reasons why we should be a membership organisation?
So if we are a membership organisation, that means that our members would be able to vote at our AGM, as we are doing today. And that means that, as well as being able to tell us what you think, you actually can show us that by the way that you vote in an AGM. The second reason is that we were founded as an organisation run by people with Aniridia and their families, for people with Aniridia and their families. And so being a membership organisation keeps us true to our original aim and way of working. And our third reason for being a membership organisation is that we hope that by having a vote at our AGM, that it makes you, the people who are benefiting from the work of the charity, actually feel more engaged and wants to be involved as a volunteer or what might consider being a trustee.
Thank you very much, Katie. James, I'm going to pose the same question to you, but why should we be a trust?
Okay, so without wanting to take anything away from what Katie just said, absolutely want to have be very engaged and have everyone involved and getting all your input. However, being a trust would enable us to spend more time delivering useful services to you, our beneficiaries, and doing things like progressing research into treatments with professionals. Why do I say that? Well, because managing membership is time-consuming. It's admin that doesn't actually benefit anybody. And as members, as volunteers who barely manage to kind of keep the organisation going, we simply don't really have the capacity for it. Membership is complicated. Let's assume that only people with Aniridia have a vote or are represented by a parent. Well, let me ask you this. At what age does a child get that vote and the parent have it taken away from them? 13, 16, 18, what? How do we tell them that when we don't actually have a contact email address for that child? How does the parent feel about having that vote taken away from them? How do we deal with parents who are separated and who both want to vote? What if it's often the case we don't even know that they've separated? we'd have to have another registration process during events like this to work out who's issuing voting cards and things like that. How do we deal with requests to change who the child's representative is on a day like today? Do we just take it on trust? Do we have to tell the other parent that the representative has changed? How do we just monitor it and manage it? These are all solvable, yes, but it requires bureaucracy, and we just don't really have the manpower, and what we do have could be more usefully spent elsewhere. So we could kind of avoid all that by being a trust, where instead the trustee board basically handles all this kind of stuff themselves internally. Secondly, we'd have a bit more flexibility in the beneficial things that we could work on. Organising this event takes a huge amount of volunteer effort for most of the year, and wonderful as it is to get everyone together like this, we can still do this, but it's also a treadmill that we can't get off. That's because we have to run this event like this in order to get 5% of members in one place to vote. That's 42 or 21 people or representatives, depending on exactly how we define membership. And no other event that we've run has brought in more than about 10 people together at once. So if we didn't have to do this one set piece event every year, then we could do something more, maybe more smaller events, more local events, spread around. We could do a sort of a children's dedicated away weekend, or a symposium for our doctors, various things like this. We could dedicate ourselves to getting grants and fundraising money for research into Aniridia, or writing clinical guidelines, all these different kind of things. Or for actually engaging with you more through kind of other methods, so online or by post, which are these kind of things that we really struggle with.
Thank you, James. Thank you.
Sure.
So basically, I think Katie is going to disagree with you, because I think Katie will say that what James is proposing is going to disconnect you guys. Katie, what do you think to the disconnect?
That is a concern. We hope that by having an AGM, that it's your chance to have your say on what you want from the organisation, and to tell us what we're getting right and what we can improve.
Thank you. So, James, why would you defend disconnecting possibly this audience for little small things? Don't you think they would want, as Katie's indicated, a say in what we do?
Absolutely. Yeah, so I can see how it might seem like that, but let me stress, the only real difference between taking part in this organisation as a trust or as a member is really this little bit, this 20 minutes now, once a year, where we sort of debate these slightly obscure technicalities. We can still produce an annual report, you can still inspect the annual accounts that we submit to a charity commission, you can still question trustees on social media, and indeed it would actually free us up to sort of engage with you more, as I say, through sort of post and phone and other kind of communication methods, and doing other events more locally and engaging with you more. It would just basically free us up to do that more.
Okay, I think I've grilled them enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys a chance to grill them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask only though for 4 questions. That will be 2 for Katie and 2 for James. So what we're going to do is, if you can raise your hand, Lynn will come round with a microphone. Before you speak, please let Lynn know whether you're speaking to Katie or to James, and then when you speak, please direct your question to them. Thank you. Short answers, please, panel.
Okay, we have one hand up at the moment. There you are, Eleanor.
I'm Eleanor, one of the trustees. My question to Katie is, in terms of membership, we may have a single person living on their own, 1 member, and we may have in a household 4 members. This to me seems a bit disproportionate when it comes to voting, and I wonder how Katie could clarify this issue to demonstrate to me the fairness aspect.
That is one of the challenges of being a membership organisation. We have, up until now, worked on a principle of considering people in terms of a household, and that's a practical step in terms of how we communicate with them, in that we can send the newsletter to one person in the household and they can share it with their family. But now that we are a fully registered charity, we do need to take more care over the legal aspects of membership, and so we have to work on defining who would be a member and therefore who would get a vote, and who would just be somebody sort of described as a supporter. So that is one of the challenges of being a membership organisation, and that is something that, if that is what you tell us that you want us to be, you want us to stay as a membership organisation, that is something that the trustees are going to have to try to work out, how to make it as fair as possible about who gets a vote and who doesn't. And we already know from having some discussions about it that it is a very complex subject, and it is hard to figure out what is really fair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Question here.
So, probably for Katie still, from the many years I've been coming to these conferences, virtually every formal vote has kind of virtually had unanimous support. So, on that basis, what are the benefits of remaining as a membership organisation where every vote seems pretty symbolic?
Well, I hope that perhaps by drawing your attention to this issue, it will encourage people to actually look a little bit more carefully at what happens in the AGM, and encourage more debate about different issues, and not for everybody just to say yes because everybody else is voting yes. I hope that everyone is sort of putting some thought into how that they vote. It is kind of up to you guys as the sort of potential members, that if you want more say in how the organisation is run, or you want to scrutinise trustees more, the AGM is one of the opportunities to do that, and so I encourage you to use your vote wisely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katie.
I have to stress the next questions are for James only.
So we've got one for James. Ian? James, I was just wondering on a practical note, whether you as a trustee board had proposals of, if we became a trust, how the wider people in the organisation would then hold, influence trustee decisions, have their say, and also how they would hold trustees to account if they felt something was not happening that should be happening, or is happening that shouldn't be happening, or whatever, whether there's a proposal of how that would be dealt with.
So I guess the sort of primary way would be through kind of either private or public kind of communication channels. So you could obviously write and ask questions of what you felt the board were doing. Or equally, you could do that in public channels. For example, on social media, you could kind of pose that question and hashtag get the trustees out or whatever, that kind of thing. Speak to Glenn about that. Ultimately, we, in the same way as we are in either association or trust format, we will both still be accountable to the Charity Commission. We would have to be submitting our annual report and our accounts to them, so that would all be publicly available. So if you did have a kind of complaint against the organisation that you felt wasn't being handled sufficiently well internally, for example, you could complain to the Charity Commission as well. That would obviously be on top of sort of any communication that we would obviously still want to be doing to keep you in touch with what's going on and keep you involved as volunteers. We absolutely still need a pathway, for example, for people to join the organisation, become a volunteer, and ultimately become a trustee. We still want you as patients and parents to be represented at this level.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, James. One more question for James.
Sorry, my name's John. Sorry, I'm struggling, James, to possibly understand. Okay, I think with the membership one, as in, we meet at the present time, or for however many years we've been doing this, or you've been doing this, that we meet on an annual basis and we get to know different people every year. How will this affect those meetings? Because if you have your group, it's like one of the groups that meet together to make all the decisions. So you're actually making your own little group rather than being part of a bigger group. How will this
How that changed? So, I mean, obviously, we as a trustee board meet on a monthly basis already, and we are making, those kind of daily and monthly decisions already. So, in many ways, that would just continue. In terms of these meetings, well, it could happen in a few different ways. So, first of all, we would probably still do some kind of a short presentation like we've just done in terms of telling you what we've been doing, but it just wouldn't involve a vote then on appointing a new trustee. We would be doing that internally, basically, and we wouldn't have these kind of debates about sort of constitutional issues and that kind of thing. That would be taken care of. That would be the kind of the main difference, really, is the sort of the governance would be taken care of by the board themselves. We would just be informing you of what's going on and obviously trying to get your input, but just not kind of formally by everyone sticking their hands up.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank both Katie and James for taking part in this session, and I'd like to thank you for your questions to them both. We're now going to do the slightly formal part of this. However, this is only advisory. It is not binding. We are going to ask you to vote on this resolution. So, if you want to remain as a membership organisation, please make your voice heard now.
Put your hand up very high so I can see it. 8.
Okay, thank you. And if you want us to move on to be a trust, please make your voice known now.
Can you vote for James?
Am I voting for James or am I voting for the
That's the idea.
Okay, so the result is in. Thank you for your advisory vote. The result is that we move towards a trust. So the trustees will now look into how that can be enacted if they choose to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Right, I just want to give you a few wee things about what's out there. Okay, so in the exhibition space we have a raffle, lots of prizes up there. We have Ted Baker stuff, Elizabeth Arden, bag of visually impaired friendly toys, a cuddly toy, and a bottle of whiskey, and we've got lots of biscuits. Some of it's been donated, thanks to those who did. Okay, there are exhibition stalls out there, there's guide dogs, there's colour audio library, there's the special education news stuff by Clive Matthews, there's also the Aniridia Network fundraising desk where you can buy some of our merchandise. We now have an online shop, go and find out about that. You can buy a lovely t-shirt or a hat, for example, with our logo on it. It all helps for fundraising. Collect your kids, you can get your kids back from the creche if you want. No, I think they're taking a break, so you do need to go and get them. As I said, there's guide dog spending areas just out there, the ring on the left. Dog bowls are still out there as well. There are volunteers around if you need sort of guiding around or help taking your dog out. If you're coming to the social event this evening at the Radisson Blu Hotel, we're going to the bar there, family friendly. Please tell Dave that you're coming. We basically just want to get a kind of count of the number of people who are coming so they can set tables out and stuff. Visit the stalls. Please do post on social media about what you've thought of things so far. Hashtag ANUKConf. We're going to be back here at 1 PM, please. Thank you. Enjoy lunch.